One of my new favorite books, I'm just telling you straight up, I'm a groupie now, is by Todd Capone, and the book is called The Transparency Sale. It is just absolutely, it's just amazing. It takes these complex ideas that we have in our minds about sales and breaking it down so that anyone can read it and can understand. It is perfect for you if you're a new seller, if you're a sales leader, or if you are like an experienced seller selling millions of dollars every year. You can still improve. That's why you're listening to this podcast. And today I get the chance to pick Todd's brain on this episode. I'm telling you, if you're looking for a great episode, this is it. If you're looking for a great book, Todd book it is. It's called The Transparency Sale. We have a link back in the show notes. But if you want to see the reason and listen to why I'm such a big groupie, a big fan, listen to this episode. You're going to love it. This episode is brought to you in part by Mailtag.io. It's a Chrome browser extension that notifies you when someone opens your email or clicks on a link. Go ahead and check out a 14-day trial with Mailtag. Simply go to Mailtag.io. This episode is also brought to you in part by TSE Certified Sales Training Program, a course designed to help sellers elevate their sales game, find more ideal customers, build stronger value, and close more deals. To check out our upcoming semester or to go ahead and take a free trial, go to thesalesevangelist.com/free course. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/free course. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have Mr. Todd Capone. And as I mentioned, Todd is one of my new favorite authors. His book is called The Transparency Sale. And Todd himself has been in the role as a sales rep. He's been as a sales leader. And now he's a thought leader, where I call him a thought leader, where he's able to help organizations and help sales leaders to understand how to help their sellers and their organization earn more revenue. He's going to break down some principles today from his book, which I highly recommend you all to check out. And if you want to find it, you can go ahead and go back to the show notes or use our Audible link, audibletrial.com/TSE, audibletrial.com/TSE. But once you start listening to this book, once you start digesting it, you're going to see why I love it so much. But after today's episode, I hope you feel the same way too. Let's go ahead and dive in. Welcome to the show, Todd.
Thanks for having me.
Dude, I'm so excited to have you. Folks who are listening to this episode, they know about you from the Facebook Lives. The Instagram videos, the LinkedIn videos, the podcast episodes that I've done on your book, and just the stories that I've told about it. And I'm a big believer. So now you got your big fan over here, man. I'm a
That's
groupie
awesome.
Officially, Todd. So I'm excited to chat with you today, man, and dive into this. But before we go into it a little bit further, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you do, man?
Well, it's so weird when somebody says, "What do you do?" And the answer is, "I wrote a book." But I've been a sales nerd my whole life. I don't know what it was, but from my first role out of college, I just knew that in such a competitive space, to stay ahead, it was just going to require me to be creative and do a lot of reading and studying. And so from doing sales leadership for 12 years before I took this journey to go write the book, this is a big change for me. But right now with the book out and it's doing so well, Donald, there's a chance when you write a book that when it comes out, people are going to look at it and say, "Hey, Todd, congratulations, but it sucks." This has been the opposite. I'm so excited about the feedback that I've gotten. So these last 6 months have been a lot on the road, doing keynote speeches at sales kickoffs and events and doing training and workshops around a lot of the concepts. And then I've been helping a lot of entrepreneurs with their foundation setting for building the revenue capacity of their organizations.
Yeah, dude, I can definitely see why you're busy. And I'm being straight up legit for folks who are listening to this episode. You know me. And, when I evangelize about something, I evangelize about something that I believe in. And this is one of those books, and I highly recommend, if you haven't done so, that you do whatever you need to get a book. And I don't tell people to go in debt. And you shouldn't go in debt to get this book. It's only like $15, $20. But if you need to go borrow some money from somebody, go ahead and do so. Go do it. Borrow it from me. I'll pay you. I'll give it to you. I think it's going to give you dividends hand over fist. So
that's great.
Well, let's dive into this, man. The book's called Transparency Sale, the Transparency Sale. Where did that come from? Where did the title come from in the first place? Or this concept?
So I was the chief revenue officer of a company in Chicago called Power Reviews for the last 4 years before this started. And just if anybody cares, the background before that, I was on the sales leadership team of Exact Target, which is a B2B email marketing company that we built up. We took public, and then Salesforce bought us for $2.7 billion when I was there, which is a pretty amazing feat. But Power Reviews, what they do is they help retailers and brands collect and display ratings and reviews on their website. So, if you're buying shoes on Crocs, or you're buying a sweater or you're buying some clothes on Vineyard Vines, or you're on Jet, you look at a product, the reviews are right next to it. And that was Power Reviews. That was the engine behind it.
Huh.
So here's what happened. And it caused me to rethink the way that I've been teaching sales, the way I've been leading sales organizations. We did a study with Northwestern University. And what they did is they said, all right, when a consumer is looking at reviews on a website, so the website is acting as the salesperson, what happens with the reviews? How does that play a role? And what they found was that a consumer was more willing to buy a product that had a 4.2 to a 4.5 score versus a 5. So a 4.2 actually sells better than a 5. So I started looking into that thinking, all right, the research shows that 95% of consumers in the B2C world are now looking at reviews before they make a purchase. And the way that reviews are acting is that 82% are looking for the negative reviews before making a purchase. What would happen if we took that to the B2B world and we started embracing this idea of just laying our pros and our cons out there? And the result, Donald, was magic. Like the first deal that I did with it normally would have been a 6-month sales cycle. We closed it in about 4 weeks.
Dang, that's whoa. 6 months to 4 weeks. When you said 4, I thought you were going to say 4 months. 4 weeks?
Yes. Yeah. So why don't we go into that story?
Please.
Because it's amazing. And so, but it was like the first time I tried it and I was like, all right, there's something here. And then we kept doing it. And what we found, and I'm going to tell the story here in a second, is that when you really embrace this idea of leading with your flaws and selling as though you're a 4.2 to 4.5, you'll find that your sales cycles speed up dramatically, but your win rates go up. You're qualifying deals in faster. You're qualifying deals out faster that you're probably going to lose anyway. Like, the axiom is, if you're going to lose fast. And you make it really, really hard on your competitor. So here's the story. I was in New York on a bunch of meetings, and I was the chief revenue officer, so I had a VP of sales that reported to me. He calls me one day while I'm there and says, hey, we just got an inbound lead from a great apparel brand, and they want to start an evaluation. And so it's a big apparel brand. So normally those are the 6-month sales cycle types where they get a team, they do an RFP, they go through this whole process. I said, hey, listen, I'm in New York and my afternoon just canceled on me. So since they're headquartered here, can you just ping that senior vice president of e-commerce and see if he wants to grab coffee? I figured there's nothing to lose, right?
Yeah.
So VP of sales has the rep reach out, the VP, that SVP of e-commerce says, yeah, have him come by. So I go, and it's, Manhattan. So it's these tiny offices. I get in there. This guy brings me to his office and rolls about 7 chairs into this tiny room. So apparently we're not having coffee. Like, he points at this little monitor. It's like a 12-inch monitor. He's like, hey, if you've got a presentation you want to give, you can just plug into the back here. And I'm like, oh man, like this isn't what I was prepared for. I look around at these there was 8 people in the room, and the guy, the senior vice president, was New York-ish in the best way possible, right? Like right to the point, just like, tell me what's up. So no small talk. Says, Todd, listen, we're looking at your competitor. We've actually heard from your competitor. We're looking at you. Why are you better than them? And I thought, I've got nothing to lose here. I think the data and the science is telling me that if I lead with a flaw, it might help. So I said, before we all invest a bunch of time into this, do you mind if I tell you why that competitor is better? Like, they have an offering that we don't. It's not even on our roadmap. And if that's going to be important, I want you to know that before I say another word, because we're not going to be able to compete on it. And they all looked like the room deflated. This guy was like, are you crazy? And so, he didn't say that, but you could see it in his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And so I did. And I talked about this add-on thing that we don't do that they do, and that apparel manufacturers are liking it, but it's not on our roadmap because we want to focus on what we're like our core. After I went through that, they very quickly were like, yeah, you know what? That's interesting, but it's not on our requirements at all. Like, let's keep going. We went in, I talked about the things that, like why we weren't going to focus on that. 20 minutes into the meeting, he kicks the other 7 people out. I swear I've never had this happen in the history of me selling. He grabs a folder off his credenza, opens it up, and it's his budget. And it says, we're selling ratings and review software. It says ratings and review software and a dollar amount on it. He points to it and he's like, that's my budget. Can you hit it? And I was like, all right, transparency just earned the ultimate in transparency. We talked for a couple minutes about that. I thought the guy was going to hug me on the way out. It was like we went from very New York to like super collaborative. 2 weeks later, my rep gets involved. There's some back and forth. But 2 weeks later, he calls and he's like, Todd, I just want to let you know we're going with you. We're not going to even do the evaluation. And so I made the decision. My first call was to your competitor. And your competitor immediately went on a rant about how they have this add-on and we don't. And he said, I laughed at them and said, hey, their chief revenue officer tried to sell me on that add-on too. It's just not important. And it was amazing. So we went through a couple of weeks of contracts and we had a deal signed when normally, there was a chance that could go at least 6 months. So that's when it began. We kept testing it out. Every time we did it, it was so disarming. And we just built our sales cycles on a foundation of trust. And all of those metrics moved in a dramatically positive direction.
Listen, I know this stuff is getting great, so we're going to take a quick break and come right back. And Todd's going to pick up where we left off and continue to share with you some of these principles that he has learned, that he teaches in the transparency sale, and also important principles of why you need to lead with your flaws. You're listening to the Sales Evangelist podcast, and I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. You meet this amazing prospect on LinkedIn. They're the right size firm, the right income, the right number of employees. They're right within your Goldilocks zone. They have a problem, and you can solve that problem with your software. You schedule an initial appointment. You send out an email to them and to a couple of their team members. You also send out some information about your firm, but you don't know if they're opening your emails or not. You don't know if they're clicking through and going to the web pages that you recommended. It's a Chrome browser extension that allows you to get notification when someone opens your email or clicks on a link. The coolest part is that you can schedule your emails for later. Mailtag.io has a free 14-day trial, so you don't have to take my word for it. You can go and test it out. And when you do fall in love with it, go ahead and use promo code Donald at checkout and get half off your subscription for life. Shh, don't go telling nobody about that now. Half off your subscription for life just because you're listening to the TSE podcast. To find out more information, again, go to mailtag.io. But let's continue the story. The prospect then goes ahead and clicks on all of your links. They go back to your website. They're doing their initial research. They want to schedule the next meeting. You go through the process. You create a demonstration. I mean, an amazing demonstration. You gave it everything you had, your emotion, your heart, your feelings. You gave epic value. But still yet, when it's all said and done, they said,
Thank you so much, Donald. Unfortunately, we are going with another vendor. We appreciate all that you did. Thank you.
Devastated. I know that feeling. I've been there. You've been there. And it's horrible. But we can fix that. We fix that by helping you with TSE Certified Sales Training Program. We would love for you to check out our upcoming semester to learn how we can help you not only find the right customers, not only say the right things and help your clients get all the way to the demonstration, but actually what you should be doing to help them convert to come towards your product or your service. To find out more information, go to thesalesevangelist.com/CST. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/C for certified, S for sales, T for training. We have a new semester coming up in April, and I would love to have you join us. Let's help you to close more deals. Hey, we're back. And as we pick up where we left off, I want you guys to be able to really do a self-examination and ask yourself, am I leading with my flaws? How can I be better at that? And how can I incorporate it just naturally? Listen to how Todd explains how you can continue to incorporate this naturally. Dude, that is just like so profound. Like, I mean, when you're listening to this, I want you guys to go back and listen to it again, but just understand what Todd just kind of emphasized there. And I want to break it down a little bit further than this as well, Todd. But the simple fact that you just showed everything, you put everything on the table and they saw it, you saw it. And as a result of it, because it proves that people don't want to do the BS as well. Like I don't know any client that wants to go through the RFP process. It just seems like it's so annoying. But if they have to because salespeople, quote unquote, are going to try to get the best on them. So they're trying to do their due diligence. Am I off on that?
No, that's exactly right. I mean, if you just think about us as human beings, like the last time you want to buy something, I'm in the process. I'm the kind of guy that buys a car until it falls apart.
Bro, same here. We just got a new Jetta.
And so, I mean, I'd love to dig into that because I just started my sales process, my buying process on that. And I'm thinking, gosh, I don't want to have to deal with this salesperson. They might be fantastic, but like I'm wired to resist being sold to, as we all are. And essentially, all I want as a buyer is to be able to predict what my experience is going to be like with that product and get the best deal I can. And if a salesperson can show me in the first 5 minutes that they're going to be a resource for me versus they're going to try to pressure me and push me into something that I don't necessarily want, then your foundation is flimsy.
Yeah.
So that's where it all starts. It's this leading with flaws and transparency. We've gotten to a point when you look at that data that when I talk about the book or talk about these concepts, people are always like, Todd, listen, you're talking my language. I've always believed in authenticity and honesty, but those people, I can sense that they feel that there's a trade-off in doing it.
Yeah.
That by being authentic and honest, it means that my results are going to suffer. But the data and the science says the opposite. It says that when you do that, you're going to maximize your results. And the experience that I've had, not only doing it, but teaching my teams and now teaching other people it's the way of the world. The proliferation of reviews and feedback on everything we do has moved into the B2B world very aggressively. And if you think as a salesperson that you're going to hide your flaws and hope to get away with it, I'm sorry, but that era is behind us.
So darn true, man. We, like you said, go back to the consumer side. I had a friend, we were talking this past week, and the idea that they shared was that it seems like the B2B world is a little bit faster in B2C than the B2C, the world is a little bit faster than B2B in a way that it adapts to the new trends, because in the B2B side, we just have to be businesses are so cautious.
Yes.
So when something neat that you can try, like a review thing like that, you don't want, the last thing you want to do is to do something on a B2B side, and then you end up in an Equifax situation or
Well, I'll tell you, there's a company, there's two companies on the tech side. So if any of your listeners are in software or technology, there's a company called Trust Radius and there's a company called G2 Crowd that collect and display ratings and reviews on software and technology products. Well, Trust Radius just came out with a study where they looked at B2B buying behavior. Yeah. And what they found was amazing to me. Like, I grew up in an era where we had our fingers crossed when the analyst reports would come out, like all these independent studies about all the products in our space and which ones are the best and which ones weren't. Well, we've now gotten to a point where B2B buyers are using reviews 56% of the time, and they're using analyst ratings only 24% of the time. And they're going in opposite directions. Like every year, reviews are going way up, using analyst rankings and independent, like quote unquote, independent studies is going dramatically down. Like the things that we invest our time in marketing are becoming less trustworthy, and reviews are becoming the core that's bringing buyers to the table to actually buy from you. And I just think we've entered an era where you have to embrace that.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally true, man. And I want to go to something what you shared a little bit ago around this whole concept. Somebody's listened to this and they're like, why does this work? And I want to get you to share that. Why does it work being transparent? Because logically, it is not supposed to, because you have a problem that you're talking about, or the simple fact that you're showing weakness, so to speak, in most people's mind in a business world. And it's just counterintuitive to what sellers are taught. Just push, push, push. Why does this approach work?
Well, that was the thing when I discovered this, and then I tried it at that apparel brand. Me being the nerd that I am, I started digging into neuroscience. And man, I am by no means a neuroscientist. Like, I think my third grade teacher would say, Todd Capone's talking about neuroscience? Like, what the heck happened? But I went to the library, I started researching this stuff. I connected with a neuroscientist at Chicago's DePaul University that was helping me to vet out some of these concepts. And, essentially, as human beings, the first concept that I think not only applies to this, but it applies to everything we do as sellers is we all make decisions using feeling and emotion and back it up with logic. So logic is your justifying mechanism to the decisions that are made with your feeling and emotion center, which is in the middle of your brain. And so, people say, all right, feelings like love and hate. And no, not those feelings. The feelings are things like, is this purchase going to give me status? Is it going, when I make this purchase, like how certain can I be in what I'm getting? Am I going to lose or gain autonomy? Am I going to lose or gain relatedness? Is this fair? Like those are really the five. And so that certainty level is so important. We're wired to try to predict what our experience is going to be like. And in order to predict an experience, when everything is layered as perfect in front of us, we are wired to not believe it. So we are taught, our brains are trained to go seek out the negative. And that's why Gartner just came out with a study that said in a typical purchase cycle, a buyer is only spending 39% of their time either talking to you or talking to your competitors. They're spending 61% of their time doing other homework, which is the reviews, the analyst rankings, the calling peers, the back channeling, even looking at sites like Glassdoor to see what your employee culture is like. And they do that because they want to be able to predict what their experience is like. And so when you lead with it, you layer on that foundation of trust and they feel like they can predict what their experience is going to be like because you've actually outlined a con around the purchase.
It's absolutely fabulous. And I love that you came back with a science side, that this is not Todd's feelings himself, but this is
Exactly.
stuff that's been proven. Neuroscientists has backed that up. I want to go into one other story. It's probably one of my favorite stories so far. Guys, I'm telling you, this book is amazing. But you had a sales rep that was making a purchase to an oil company. Selling something to an oil company who was making a purchase. And it's the concept of levers.
Yes.
Talk to us about that and how transparency played an important part in the negotiation and utilizing levers.
Yeah. So this is something that I've somehow become famous for. It's this idea of transparent negotiating.
Yeah.
But for your listeners, if they go to Google right now and they say tips on negotiating, what you're going to find is all kinds of stuff that literally destroys trust. Things like go in with an extreme position. And there's things, it's like a Texas Hold'em tournament, right? Where you're hiding your tells. And so what this whole concept of transparent negotiating is if you want to build trust right through the goal line, you lead with what's important to you as an organization. Not only when you outline the pricing. So when somebody says, how do you price your solutions? You explain it with these levers. When you put together a proposal, you make sure it's clear in there. And then when negotiation time comes, it becomes a buyer that's actually able to negotiate their own deal. And in everything that they're getting in terms of a discount, they're giving you something. And so that story you're talking about is when I got pulled into a last minute negotiation session with a big oil services company down in Houston. I go down there with the rep, go into the room. They've got like a team of hungry procurement people waiting to pick me up. And before we even started, I knew what this was all about. So I said, hey, listen, can I write 4 things on the board for you that are what's important to us? Because I know where this is going. And they said, of course. And so I wrote the 4 levers on the wall, and it was basically on their whiteboard. It was volume, which is how much they buy, the timing of cash, which is how fast they pay, the length of commitment, which is obviously how long they commit, and then the timing of the deal, which is when they sign. And they immediately said, Todd, fascinating, like in a very facetious way, we need 30% off. And instead of saying, well, we can do 15 and doing the traditional crap game, what I did is said, hey, I think we might be able to get you there. Let's go up to the wall here and go through each one of these 4, because these are the 4 things we are willing to pay you for in the form of a discount. And they immediately disarmed. We talked about volume. Hey, commit to more technology. Well, your overall discount percentage goes down because that's valuable to us. So we'll pay you in the form of a discount for that. Timing of cash. You're going to pay us annually, but we've got a 3-year commitment here. Pay us for year 2 and year 3 now. Turns out we like money. We'll pay you for that in the form of a discount. Length of commitment. We got a 3-year deal. You can take it to 5 years. We'll give you an extra 5% for each year, 4 and 5. So we'll pay you in the form of a discount to help us with our forecasting of our business around your commitment. And the 4th one is the timing of the deal. Hey, I've got investors that I need to be able to predict what our business around. If you're able to work with me on coming up with a mutually reasonable date by which you'll sign this, I'll pay you to hold to it in the form of a discount of 5%. And we showed them 30%. They picked 2 of them. They sped up the timing of cash and they helped us forecast. They were happy. We were happy. We paid we got something in return for every dollar we gave them. And they loved us at the end. I mean, that's what transparency is. We don't need to, we're not negotiating hostages. We're negotiating, these agreements with our products. And I'm willing to bet that most of your listeners have the exact same levers. How much you buy, how fast you pay, how long you commit, and when you sign.
Yeah. When I read the story, I was just like blown away by how simple and how I imagine that meeting could have gone for days, in a sense that you're going to go and quote unquote, go sharpen your pencil, Todd, come back.
Exactly.
And go talk to see what you can do and see all this crap. And it's like, no, this is what it is. Let's be as upfront as much as possible. And I think deep down inside every human's gut, inside each of us, that's what we want. We just really we don't want to feel that we were had. And I think traditionally that's the way sales has been set up, with the one-sidedness. And with this transparency in society, with reviews or transparency in the sales approach, the process that you are utilizing, I think it brings that humanity back to it. I think it gives us the confidence to feel that we're discussing and we're talking as human beings, and you treat me as a human being. So naturally, I'm going to do business with you. And
exactly. And that when you think about that negotiating concept, I mean, it really does a couple of things. I mean, it builds trust right through the goal line, which is so important. But the second thing is that so many companies I talk to, they don't have any kind of a framework for the way they negotiate. And to your point, this is so easy. Like, I literally just taught you and your listeners the 4 levers. They could go implement it right now. Like, as soon as they're done, it's that easy. That's the whole point. You don't need a 3-day class. You're not going to go negotiate a UAW labor contract. You can go configure this afternoon and be using it. And that's why I'm obviously biased, but I just think it's so valuable.
Well, maybe I'm a little biased as well too, but I think I agree with you and I second it. So guys, take this testimony and go and check out the book. Todd, if there's one major piece of advice you'd like folks listening to this episode to walk away with, what's that one major piece of advice?
Well, the core of this whole thing is that transparency sells better than perfection. If you just remember that, it feels good, but it actually does. And again, with this proliferation of reviews and feedback and everything we do, now it's the non-obvious evolution that's going on in sales, and you've got to go grasp it. Transparency has always worked better than perfection, but now it's a requirement.
Dude, love it, man. If folks out there want to get in touch with you, Todd, what's the best way for them to go about doing so?
Well, they can always follow me on LinkedIn. So it's just Todd Capone. And then my website is transparencysale.com. You can find all kinds of nonsense there and information about speaking engagements and workshops and all the other crazy stuff I do.
Well, Todd, man, it's not nonsense over there, man. It's some great content. I'm going to tell everyone to go back and check it out. And also check out Transparency Sale. And Todd's also something else I want to tell you guys about the book. It's probably one of the most unique book covers you're ever going to see. And some play on words here. Transparency covers the transparency cover over the hard cover of the book. And it just stands out. It's super cool. And you're going to have it on your bookshelf as your favorite, like I do. So Todd, man, thank you again for taking the time to come on the show today. We appreciate it.
That was so much fun. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Man, I'm telling you, this is why I love this book. It's just full of pure gold. And I recommend you go back to the show notes, connect with Todd, tell him you heard him on the Sales Evangelist podcast, connect with him on LinkedIn. He's super natural, easy to talk to, just like a down-to-earth human being. And if you want to take advantage of his book, want to check it out, you can go back and see the links in the show notes, or just simply go to audibletrial.com/TSE. Again, audibletrial.com/TSE. Connect with Todd, check out his book. Let him know again that you heard him on a podcast. And when you incorporate these principles, let me know as well, because I know you're going to see results. It's helped me, and I can guarantee it's going to help your team as well. Again, all the links back in the show notes at salesevangelist.com/the-word episode number 1109. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, swipe up on a cover art and you'll see information in the show notes there. I want to help you guys when it's all said and done. We tell you about tools like mailtag.io. You can take advantage of their 14-day free offer. We tell you about TSE Certified Sales Training Program. You can try the first 2 modules for free, or you can go back and get all the great data and stuff that we save and we produce for you in our show notes, because we know it can help. We want you to find more ideal customers, build stronger value. We want you to close more deals. But most importantly, we want to challenge you each and every single day to go out and do big things. Stay tuned for a scene from our next episode.
Early in my sales career, I really focused on the outcome of the sales call and the results. And it took me a long time to realize I was focusing on the wrong thing. I made the sale, I got excited. If I didn't make it, I was in despair. And I learned that to focus on the outcome and the results was the wrong thing. I eventually learned that focusing on the activities, the things that I did, the things that I could control. In other words, what can you control? I learned that I could control how many prospecting attempts I made. I learned that I could control how many times I asked for. I learned that I could control my tonality, my demeanor, my body language. And when I learned to focus on the activities that I could control and count those things on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis.
Hey, I want to thank you so much for checking out the episode today, for listening, and for actually subscribing. If you haven't done so already, I ask you to go ahead and hit subscribe. And if you do like the podcast, why don't you go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, or rate us on whatever platform you listen to the podcast on. Also, why don't you share it with your friends and family, your colleagues, people who could benefit from listening to a sales podcast? I'm sure you know a couple people. Show them how they can subscribe. It would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much. Our show today was produced by myself and the Sales Podcast Network. It was edited by our good friend, Mr. Jershon O'Bale. Our content writer and show note creator is Mrs. Shannon Rasmussen. You can find audio credits to this and all of our episodes in the show notes. And as always, I am your host, your coach, your mentor, your guide down the sales journey, Mr. Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. Sales Podcast Network.